Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table A Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. My name is Tim Burch. I'm filling in for Kurt Sumner, your normal host, and I have a special guest today, continuing along with our theme of talking to people, not surveyors, but people that are involved in the surveying profession in one way or another. Today, we're talking to Marisa Trzemzalski. Did I say it right? Okay. Yes, Marisa Trzemzalski. She's new to NCEES. She is a new liaison with them that was hired to help with a big SCORE grant that was put together for some of the southern states. But bottom line is that NCEES sees the need for promotion, sees the need for putting things together and partnering with NSPS. And so having Marisa on, and I can tell you already, for those who have already been around her in some of our meetings, she is a ball of fire. So getting her on here was a lot of fun. So good. I guess technically still it's good morning, Marisa. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So what we know, most of us know that NCEES is based in the South Carolina, Clemson area. Is that where you're based? I mean, these days you can't tell where anybody is regionally at because of all the work from home.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm actually out of Greenville, South Carolina. We're about an hour north of Clemson. And our headquarters just moved from the Clemson area to the Greenville area. And so we've got a beautiful brand new building. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's huge. It is so conveniently located to all the major interstates and to our downtown area. And so I'm loving that the building is 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot to do around there. Yeah. So it's really nice.
Very nice. Well, you know what? And I'm going to throw you a quick curve, an audible here, because something kind of came off of the conversation, my last conversation with Griffin Pritchard from Alabama. Living near the Clemson area, is college football a big deal to you, to your family, to those around you?
So, I grew up in Ohio. So my family, but not myself. Let me just clarify. My family are Ohio State fans. My husband is a Michigan State Spartan. Go Green.
Oh,
so wow. We cheer for the Spartans here, but our local team is Clemson University. So we have been to numerous football games, tailgates. It is so fun. It is an experience like you've never experienced before. It's amazing.
Well, that was the fun thing. Yeah, like you said, talking to Griffin the other day, that, here's a guy in Alabama, and he's a Tennessee football fan. I said, how can you survive down there in Alabama, between Auburn and Alabama, and be Tennessee? And he's like, you just deal with it. So just curious, because like I said, everybody, that doesn't know about the move of NCEES, they really put the NCEES and Clemson together because it was such a close-knit situation building wise. So, but that's good that you guys have your own place and little more autonomy now. And
that's
yes, it will be nice that when we get past post-COVID, that people will start coming back to your building, and we will start having those regular meetings and functions that we're so used to NCEES having through the years, with the importance of the testing services that you all provide. So, looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I am too, and I'm looking forward to meeting people in person. All these surveyors and people like yourself that I've connected with, and finally, when the world opens up, and that building opens up, then it'll be nice to have a face-to-face conversation with folks. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are too. All right, so you're new to NCEES. You're new to, especially being around us crazy surveyors. What brought you to NCEES, and what in your background is going to really push forward in what we're trying to accomplish at NCEES with NSPS and promotion?
Sure, absolutely. So I went to Kent State University and I have a degree in journalism. But shortly after college, I headed south and I moved to the Greenville, South Carolina area. And I was lucky enough to work for a Fortune 1000 IT distributor for the last 15 years in their corporate marketing department. And so in that corporate marketing department, I wore a lot of hats over 15 years. I had 5 or 6 different job titles, but I really got an education and a background in traditional marketing, working directly with executives, working with manufacturers, just working with different sets of people, which was fantastic, a fantastic education for me. I also got to lead a few different teams within the department as well. And so just the exposure that I had and the amazing mentors that I had when I was there, I feel like that kind of set me up for success wherever I went. So at the same time that I was there, and then subsequently after, I also sit on the board of directors for our local science center here in Greenville. It's called the Roper Mountain Science Center. They have actually been around for since 1985. And it's a huge campus. They're actually a part of our school system here. They're part of Greenville County School Systems. And so it's a really unique partnership between like public ownership, corporate sponsors, private support, and then volunteers kind of make up, what the building's comprised of. And so during the school year, this is why I love this place. So during the school year, 500 to 600 students visit what we call the mountain every day for science lessons. And they come from over 45 counties in the state. And then they also pull in from other states too. So, so they're really, really involved with the school system. Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of focus is, but they also have some public programming, and different things throughout the summer for the public to attend. And then we are actually, because I sit on the board and I'm the secretary, so I'm very heavily involved. We have a huge campaign going on right now with a new environmental science and sustainability center that we are currently under construction with on the mountain. So I have a lot of passion and background for STEM education. Personally, I am married to an electrical engineer. So when this posting for NCEES came up, I thought, okay, so I've got a marketing background, a really solid marketing background. Mm-hmm. I'm married to an electrical engineer, and I sit on the board of directors for a STEM science center. Like this is the perfect marriage of everything, right? And right. So I really felt like it was kind of meant to be. And it was just a great combination of all of my loves, literally. Mm-hmm. And so that's my background, and that's kind of what got me to NCEES.
Good. And that's fantastic. And, it's also here, and I mean, I obviously I knew a little bit about your background, but it's hearing that there are these boards and are these STEM initiatives that I don't think are publicized enough, that we really need to highlight people like yourselves and these boards that are out there doing these things. That was the conversation with Griffin in Alabama the other day, that they have a large board that really pushes STEM at the high school level, that I think we need to take those types of situations and broadcast them nationwide to make sure that, when some places are trying to start these initiatives, they're not alone. Don't rebuild the wheel. Talk to some of these other groups that have already done these things. So hearing that they exist and real people like yourselves belong and are enthused about them is always great to hear. And it's just it gives me hope that we can make a difference. So
absolutely, and they're so willing to work. When I took this new position on, our executive director was like, oh my gosh, this is like, the perfect job for you. And they've been awesome. I've been in my role for 4 months now, 5 months. And I've already had to reach out to them and say, hey, I need you for my job. Like, I need to ask you a question. Yes. So it's been a great partnership. It's been wonderful.
Good. All right. So you started this job. It seems like it's going to be perfect. You've been there a little bit long enough, and you've gotten some of your marching orders. What are your goals now, along with what you've been told to try to do? What do you see? How do you see you can take this position and really make it shine?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kind of take us back to the beginning of the SCORE initiative. And I feel like most people listening probably know what that SCORE initiative is, but just for those that might not know,
Sure.
just to quickly kind of recap what that is. So, yep, the SCORE initiative is the Surveying Candidate Objectives for Recruitment and Education. It came about a few years ago. It's a regional pilot program to promote the geomatics profession. So SCORE was devised by a coalition of surveying societies, including yourselves, NSPS, the Maryland Society of Surveyors, North Carolina Society of Surveyors, the Surveying and Mapping Society of Georgia, Tennessee Association of Professional Surveyors, and the Virginia Association of Surveyors. So these organizations are basically working together to address recruitment of the geomatics profession, as you know, and that includes that recruitment of racial minorities and women, which we all know are underrepresented in the field of surveying.
Right.
And so back in 2019, the coalition requested funding from NCEES to support the study and implementation of a recruiting, marketing, and public relations strategy for this geomatics profession. So the board got together, they fully supported the aim of the project, and they saw this need for this initiative, not just at a regional level, but at a national level. And so they wanted for NCEES to have more direct involvement. And so they approved the development of a national marketing program in order to increase the number of licensed professionals entering the geomatics profession.
Right.
And so basically, you know, it's working in conjunction with you all and then working with these state societies to make this happen. And so NCEES, you know, we recognize the same things that the SCORE Coalition group had recognized as well, and we share those same concerns. And I think at the end of the day, we all had those same goals, is to, you know, promote the value of licensure and to promote the profession and increase, and, you know, in turn, increase the number of people entering the profession. So we had already been doing, you know, pre this role and pre my time at NCEES, you know, we'd already been doing a lot beforehand with Twist and Future City and things like that. But it just kind of made sense to bring it all under one, you know, effort and one umbrella. And so in July of this year, I did join the team, the public affairs team. And so basically, you know, I work very closely with the SCORE partners. I work closely with you all, Christy Davis with the North Carolina Society, on these surveying and marketing outreach projects. And so, you know, I do different things through print and digital, a lot of social. I've been kind of ramping that up too. You know, I'm responsible for marketing our services and promoting the value of licensure in surveying, and then coordinating K through 12 surveying outreach events. And so another big part of my role is this marketing research project that we've just kind of launched over the last month. And so we've been able to partner with McKinley Advisors out of Washington, D.C., and basically, you know, look at what types of resources and information and initiatives will help us raise awareness and then boost our workforce development numbers for both surveying and engineering. So this research project is going to look at both professions.
Good.
You know, it's obviously, it's got the third-party qualitative and quantitative research, and you know, there will be focus groups and survey distribution and things like that. But when we get these research results in early 2021, that is really what's going to drive this larger overall marketing plan that we will take and run with. Good.
You know, because that's one thing that I've always appreciated about NCEES. And I mean, you could look at it and say, well, they're a testing company, but you know what? The amount of information you're able to gather through potential candidates and the ones that do succeed and what have you, there's so much data to be gathered, and really to be able to see what kind of demographics we're talking about here and how we can course correct our marketing efforts. If say for instance, we get 100 surveyors apply to take that test, and 99 of them are older white males. Well, that says, you know, that unfortunately, that's where the profession has gone. We need to broaden that. We need to take that and see what it is. And that's something that NCEES or NSPS is really trying to also promote, along with NCEES, is that surveying today is not what surveying was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And there's so much more due to technology, due to advanced designs on things that there's so many more careers to be had in surveying from all walks of life, and not just, like I said, stereotypically a white male. That we're finding out through STEM that there's a lot of smart young ladies out there that just what they're capable of doing blows my mind, and minorities as well. So I think, I'm just glad that what started as a regional ask of NCEES with the grant has basically become a nationwide thing, in that you weren't hired to say, oh no, you can only talk to Virginia, Maryland. I mean, those people. You're available to all of us. You're
Right.
You made yourself out there for everybody in this effort. So I applaud NCEES, and I applaud you for taking it on and making it work.
Thank you.
Well, I guess let's roll forward a little bit then into diversity and recruitment, and that's something. And I was pleased that the diversity committee that NSPS put together came together. B, I'm glad they reached out to you and said, would you please be part of this? That your information and your input is going to be invaluable to what we're trying to accomplish. Because you see it from more STEM and not just surveyors. How do you feel like we can do a better job about diversifying our workforce and recruiting to people that wouldn't normally hear about surveying and or STEM?
Yeah, absolutely. So, going back to that research, I mean, that's really going to help guide us and lead us with how to best go about that, right? And to reach these folks and learn different perspectives. So, but here's the thing. I mean, we recognize a lack of diversity in surveying in the profession. I've been in my role, like I said, for just a few months, and I see that myself as well, just in the research and the networking that I've done with people. But that's not to say that can't change, because it absolutely can. And so, we can try to bring diversity in, which obviously is going to make the profession better. And so I think at the end of the day, we talk about, we have a diverse public. And so this diverse public counts on surveyors to protect their health, safety, and welfare. And so we've got to attract a more diverse group of people into this profession to serve a diverse public. Because, having those different voices and opinions I feel like this is this way for any profession, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Every single profession, you've got to have diversity. It's absolutely imperative. And so, it just, having those different voices and opinions just adds to the profession and just makes it only better. And so, it brings ideas to the tables that other people wouldn't have thought about. And then, you can't assume that everybody follows your same path or your same challenges and career barriers that you had. And it's, I've listened to so many podcasts and I've networked with a lot of people. And while a lot of people's stories about how they got into surveying and how they, fell into this, a lot of them just fell into it. Mm-hmm. They're all very different. And there's not just this one path that I feel like every single surveyor goes down. And that right there, that's diversity. That's diversity. And so I think it's just a cool, it's such a cool profession, and there's so many opportunities. And then to be able to just have more voices and different voices and people that grew up in different areas and grew up with different cultural lifestyles and bring that to the table, like that is so exciting to me. And so, one thing that I think when we talk about recruitment, I think it just starts early. And, and I've said this before, that, you go to these classes for career days and you see doctors and you see veterinarians or attorneys. You don't see a surveyor. So how cool would that be on career day that there's a surveyor and it's a woman surveyor or a racial, right, a racial minority surveyor. And you've got people coming in there showing young kids, this is the work I do, and it is so cool. Look at all the cool toys I get to play with in my job.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And and so like I said, I've been spending a lot of time researching. I've been spending a lot of time networking with people. I feel like I've connected with every surveyor on LinkedIn, but I know that I haven't. So if I haven't connected with you yet, I'm sure that I will at some point. But what I'm seeing is that there's just, I'm going to use women, for instance. There's a lot of really cool, unique ladies out there, the conversation, and they're changing the mindset of this traditionally male-dominated field. I'm going to use Anna Rios as an example. Women's Surveyor Summit. She is like a pioneer for changing this profession.
Yes, she is.
And I can't say enough amazing things about her, and Amanda Allred. And then there's people outside of our profession that I've started following and started listening to. And there's a mentoring program, I think it's out of New York City, like an inner city program called Tools and Tiaras. And it is founded by, it's founded by a Black woman who, I think she has a background in plumbing or some sort of construction trade, but it's a mentoring program for young girls and women who want to pursue those non-traditional careers,
right?
And dominated construction industry. And so I love their motto, and I love what I read about them. And it's making intentional changes to the way we view and portray what constitutes women work will help foster the change that society desperately needs. I love that. I love that line. Oh my gosh, it's so fantastic. And then there's podcasts. Like I discovered a podcast called Hazard Girls, and it's about women working in non-traditional fields and the career paths that got them there. And so, getting our exposure, and I say our, not that I'm a surveyor, but I feel like I'm part of this industry now. And so getting the exposure of surveyors into different things like this, right? So you might hear one of those pioneer women surveyors coming up on a Hazard Girls podcast here very soon. And so while that podcast is not for surveyors, but it is about working in non-traditional fields. And so I think when we talk about diversity in recruitment, that it's doing things like that, and it's changing that conversation and changing the mindset.
Absolutely. Well, and I will just make a quick observation right here as we're chugging along. And I guess that's been the bright spot about NCEES bringing you on and doing all that you've done so far, is that I really feel like you've approached this as almost a listening tour before standing on the pulpit and saying, surveyors, you need to do these things, because we get that so often with it. Internally to the surveying profession, that surveyors will wake up one day and decide, you know what, we're falling short on surveyors and we're falling short on this and that or whatever. It's like, no, the problem's always been there, but it's taking opportunities like you're taking here to listen, to see where these voids are before we make a plan and go forward. So I applaud you for that, and I applaud you to continue going on and opening up some of these doors to other places that surveying wouldn't typically be heard, because so often, just like Surveyor Says, chances are it's going to be a surveyor that's going to listen to this podcast. But we don't want just surveyors to listen to this. We want the general public to be able to listen to this and take something from it. That it is about a profession, but it's about how anybody on the outside can look in, and maybe if they are somebody, or they know somebody, one of their high schoolers, that they don't know what their kid wants to do. Hey, have you ever considered being a surveyor? Because I think that's part of the message that we do need to get out. So, I guess, so we get chugging along. We added, obviously NCEES added you in a strange time in our lifetimes with COVID. How have you been? What's been your mindset? How are you wanting to kind of repackage this thing to where we can only do, like you said, we can only do stuff by video conferencing. We're not seeing people in person. You're not able to go out and beat the streets and do these things. How are you modifying this versus what we would typically do in normal times?
Yep. So the first thing that I want to say about COVID is I feel incredibly blessed to be able to get a job during a time of COVID. So that's, out of all things, I feel very, very fortunate that happened, because so many people have had their jobs eliminated and are struggling to find work. So I'm very grateful to NCEES for that. But I think, the one thing that COVID has given every single person is the ability and the education and how to live in a virtual world. And so, marketing has always, since the dawn of the internet, marketing has been virtual, right? It's always been there. But COVID has really kind of taken this and shown us the value of a virtual environment. And it's helped us reach audiences that we probably would have never reached before, because of the fact that we've all had to understand it, we've had to use it, and we've just had to embrace it. And this is it. You want to stay connected to people, it's online. And so it's forced marketers and advertisers to basically become more creative with ways to go to market and reach people that, to your point, you can't reach in person anymore. And so I like to think that COVID has given us kind of this ease of access. It's opened up doors outside of the pandemic now. So I know the pandemic's still going on, but hopefully it will be over soon. And this has just shown us, though, that what we can do online, we can carry this on forever, right?
Exactly.
And so it's all encompassing. And that's the other cool thing about it. There's older people who have said, I'm not tech savvy, and I've had to become tech savvy and I've had to embrace this. There's younger generations, like my daughter, she's 4. We don't really let her have tablet time, but when her school closed down for 6 weeks and I was homeschooling her, you better believe I've said, well, guess what? You're about to learn how to work a tablet, because we're not going to skip any school. And it was important for me that she still did lessons. And so she quickly learned how to work that tablet. And so just become, it's helped us to become more educated and to kind of expand our minds, if you will. And so I love to use an example that people can relate back to, and it's the working from home theory. And so pre-COVID, there were a handful of companies that worked from home or worked remotely, but there were also companies who were very much against it. And then COVID kind of forced us to, embrace this. You either work from home or your business is shutting down and you've got a handful of people without jobs, right? And so now this has made us pivot and kind of embrace that work from home theory. And many companies are either now going fully remote, or they're going to implement remote policies once people are back in the office, to take advantage of that. And so, the other thing too that I think a positive is it's introduced technology to a lot of underserved folks as well, like with the Chromebooks in schools and things like that. So, while everybody, of course, has a negative to COVID, and there are a lot of downfalls to COVID for sure, I think there's a silver lining too. So, it does bring a lot of people while it separates a lot of people physically, it still brings a lot of people physically closer.
Right.
My husband and I are both working from home, so we're together all the time. It's changed the landscape of businesses for good and bad, and it really just shows you all that you can do virtually and achieve the same results. Like with virtual events, I mean, that's a huge thing. Look at all the meetings that have had to be canceled, or these traditional in-person meetings. Event planners have gone and said, uh-oh, I better learn how to host and hold a virtual event, and they've done it. And so, from our area, from NCEES, we have been doing a lot virtually. And so we've launched these really cool profiles and podcasts. We've had a lot of, young, energetic, really creative, unique surveyors that we've been featuring on these profiles and podcasts. We're now participating in industry podcasts like yourself and the Geoholics. And, we've just found interesting and compelling, unique stories to share on our social media channels. And so, we're pushing out unique content and opportunities. And just the other day, we promoted our NCEES Surveying Education Award, and just things from an NCEES company perspective,
Mm-hmm.
we're pushing out a lot more because of this virtual environment that we're in. So it's been weird, undoubtedly, but I see a lot of, I see the glass half full with this as well.
Exactly. And something I'll tease a little bit is it's opportunity. It's going to give us opportunities because people are now a little more comfortable with the virtual meetings, virtual conferences and gatherings. NSPS is going to be partnering with another association that's in a similar industry. We're going to be doing some cross-path webinars coming up. Let's just say it's the GIS community. That it's something that for a conference planner to put that together in the past, with a venue, with speakers, with all of these things and the logistics of getting it there, it would have been an expensive endeavor to start just to, and not know if anybody's going to show up. This is going to give us an opportunity to basically preview what something we may be able to do in person someday, but kind of get it off the ground and doing it virtually. Like I said, everybody's getting used to this. Let's promote this, this opportunity, this partnership initiative, and pay attention to NSPS website and social medias. You'll be hearing more and more about that here shortly. But you're right. Got to look at some of this stuff with a silver lining, glass half full, and move on from it. All right. Well, full disclosure, I'm a second-generation surveyor, and unfortunately, I've also been surveying long enough that surveyors are horrible promoters of themselves. That's one reason they're surveyors. They go to the field, they put their head down, they get their survey done. They don't want to deal with people, and they go about their work. And my father was the perfect example of that. He didn't want to talk on the phone. He just went out, did the surveys, and came back in, drafted, and been done with it. Now we're in an age where we've got social media. You got all of this. It's really almost you got to splash it a little bit. How do we take the new profession with now millennials and Gen Z? How do we make that a little more of a splash of promoting the profession that's not typically been promotable in the past? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the first thing that all of us can be doing, including myself, especially new to the profession, is whether you're having an in-person conversation or you're having a phone conversation or you're talking to somebody over LinkedIn messaging, whatever it is think about changing the conversation, changing the messaging. And so focusing on all the really cool things that are in this industry. And like I said, all the cool toys and the cool equipment that y'all get to play with, and don't focus on the fact that I've been in the industry for 25 years and I went out in the field and I got, bit by a bee, got caught in a beehive or whatever it is. So, let's focus on the fun aspect and start using those words that inspire action and catchphrases. And so that's something that that research project is really going to help us to guide, and to kind of fuel that and to give us that information, or what are those catchphrases. And then we are absolutely going to share those with the surveying community too, when we kind of hone in on and hear that. So another idea is, foster a personal passion. And so something that you identify with and that you feel particularly called to share, make a difference. And so I'm going to use two people. I'm going to use Anna Rios with Women Surveyor Summit and Trent Keenan with Mentoring Mondays. And so, these people are talking about the things that they're passionate about. They're talking about, obviously, their profession, but they have a passion for mentoring. They have a passion for growing the profession. They have a passion for diversity, and they see a need for that. And so they want to bring this to the table, and they want other people to be successful. And so, in order to be successful, you've got to share it with each other, and you've got to spread the love in order to grow the audience. So, which is a great segue into saying, use social media. Exactly. Don't be afraid of social media.
Exactly.
Because this is where young surveyors are, and this is where your K through 12 and your college students are. It's free. You can do it anywhere. It's easy to use. But when you're using social media, the things to keep in mind are, think about who your audience is or who you want your audience to be, and think about what you want to share with them and what are those message points that you want to get across. And we can, like I said, we're gonna come up with these messaging points and catchphrases and things like that we will share and put out there for surveyors to use. And embrace hashtags. So, personally on my personal social media accounts, I'm kind of like the queen of hashtags. I come up with like really crazy ones sometimes. You won't see me using those on my professional account, but using hashtags to attract new followers to the profession.
Exactly.
And have fun with it. But when you're using hashtags on a professional level, use kind of the most popular ones in the industry, so that people can find you easily. So hashtag surveying, hashtag land surveying, hashtag women who survey life, things like that. And the other thing that you want to do too is to tag like NSPS or your state chapter and use your hashtags as well. But the key is basically to just stick with a few that the entire profession is using for a larger impact. And then, but the thing about social media that I say is you can absolutely be a listener. That's fine. But unless you want change, you have to be a participant.
Yes.
So you've got to share, you've got to, retweet, and, you have to do this as an individual on an individual level, unless you're running your company's social media account, which I don't know if surveyors are. You've got to do this at the individual level. So, different other things you can do, at your local level, you can become a member of your state chapter if you're not already, and find out where you can volunteer your time. Is it career fairs? Is it in-person or virtual events? Reaching out, doing the things that I think a lot of surveyors have done, reaching out to schools and guidance counselors, but think outside of that. Think about the science centers, right? Exactly. There's a ton of STEM at science centers. There's, children's museums. A lot of times children's museums have different science aspects and STEM days and things like that. And so just thinking a little bit more out of the box about, instead of traditional Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, FAA, which we absolutely still need to 100% that group, but maybe just taking that one step further, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep. So, and then on the national level, join the Mentoring Mondays program that Trent has, or become part of the Young Surveyors Network, through NSPS. And so I think there's just a lot of things, a lot of different outlets, and things that don't take up a lot of time, or that you can quick do in your car, or, if you're just trying to kill some time in between appointments or something like that, you can just hop on LinkedIn or hop on Instagram and make a quick post, and it can really go a long way. So
very good. Exactly. Yeah. And that, you've raised a bunch of good points there. Yes. It's, that's something we still struggle with a little bit. I know at a lot of the state levels, you still have I won't say a bulk of their members, but because of the demographics and the age of the members and the number of the members, there's, some are still resistant to social media, resistant to technology. They want that printed newsletter. That stuff is going to have to go away. It's not cost effective. It's not, especially through this last election season, it was go to the mailbox, pull out all of the cardboard flyers, and if I wasn't paying attention, some of those newsletters are going to get in with those election publications, and they're just going to be trashed. But I'll look at something online. I mean, that catches my attention. So all great points. And well, I tell you what, I promised you I wouldn't take too much of your time. We try to keep these in the 30-minute range or so. However, I will request that you do come back. We get once you get your arms wrapped around your market research, and we can share a little bit more, that we revisit this conversation and help push the profession and all the other STEM professions as well down the road, because it's desperately needed. And Marisa, thank you for all of your efforts. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to partnering with NCEES on a lot more things going forward.
Thank you. We do too. And I just want to throw out one more thing. I have a
Sure.
challenge for survey in 2021. So,
Got it.
as we reach this year and as we hopefully the tables kind of turn and things get a little bit brighter and better, start thinking about and take action on what you can do to share the profession, no matter how big or small. And then think about how NCEES can help you and reach out to me, because we would love to assist in any way with whatever resources we can provide. So, the population of surveyors is really small. Again, in my limited time, I've already kind of seen that, and I feel like everybody kind of knows each other. But in order to impact and grow the profession, everybody's got to pitch in and kind of do their part. And so, if getting out and doing like a formal outreach activity in person is not your forte, send somebody from one of your teams, to do it, and let them use company time to do that, and pay them for that. Because they are promoting the profession and they are a representative for your company, and it's free advertising.
Right.
And so encourage your employees to get out there and do some mentoring and pay them, for their time to do that. But back to the challenge, just think about what you can do. Send me pictures. I mean, we would love to post some things on social about what people are doing, what unique things people are doing to get out there, and just let me know how we can help.
Very good. Well, once again, Marisa Trzemzalski from NCEES, you better be back here. We're going to chase you down and make you sit down with me again. So that's it for us on this end. We'll say in the coming weeks, we've got a few more great interviews coming up that Kurt's lining up, and then we're going to finish up the year with kind of a year in review. It's been a strange year in review, but Kurt and I are going to sit down and talk about where we've been through this crazy year. And, hey, it's been crazy, but we got Marisa out of the deal. So that's all that matters. So we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you. You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.